I just want to quickly bring forth a point. So think about for a second if you grew up in athletics and you trained hard and you were able to, through just pure hard work, rise to the top of your profession, something that's the largest, probably fastest, one of the fastest growing sports in the world, and you got to the top of that mountain, the top of your profession, and people said, you're not allowed to conduct your profession in your home state. Well, there's a MMA athlete named Chris Weidman from Long Island, and perhaps it's appropriate that we started session today by honoring people from Baldwin High School, where he's from. And I had the opportunity a few years ago at an event to meet him right after he won the UFC championship. And he asked, what's going on? Why can't I fight in New York State? And you know what? I had a hard time really giving him an answer because we've known for years there was support for this bill in this House, but it just wasn't getting the chance to come out to the floor. So I think the previous speaker spoke very well about the fact that with all the amendments and regulations that will come forth with this, we are actually taking action not just to allow people like that to conduct this activity in New York State, but we are actually putting forth initiatives that are going to make this sport safer and are going to allow the people who participate in New York to do it safely. They're going to certainly be aware that there's some risk, but we're going to make sure it's done in the safest way possible. We're going to, in the process, generate economic activity for our state. And that doesn't just mean, the large venues. It means smaller venues. It means the mom and pop restaurants and stores that are around those venues when people are going to come into town to view these events. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit about just the athletes that participate in this in general. We can talk about domestic violence. We can talk about all different types of things. There are bad apples in every profession there is. And we should not confuse, that just because they participate in a certain activity, that's the cause of somebody being a bad apple. That's not necessarily the case. And from what I know, I will tell you I'm not, huge into MMA, but I've watched some bouts, and I've learned a little bit about some of the participants. And there are people who are probably amongst the most charitable athletes in the world who work with organizations that help kids, that help be a positive role model for those kids. So all in all, I think this is pretty much an obvious thing for us to support, to get on board with the rest of the country and allow people like Chris Weidman to hopefully, I know he's fighting to regain his championship in a few months, and I hope his first defense will be right here in his home state of New York. And I commend the sponsor for his work, not just in leading this to the floor, but certainly making amendments as necessary to get additional support, and certainly thank the sponsor. And just a quick hat tip to my colleague, Dean Murray, who I know has been an advocate for years for this bill. I'm happy to be voting yes for this bill to finally become law in New York State. Thank you.